So now once we know the basics of list and how exactly we store data of different types, like we can store numbers, we can store strings, we can store even we can have a list with different type of values, right? Example, we have done that here, right? So when I say 4, 6, true, and Navin, you can see the type of list is any, right? We have talked about the hierarchy. What we'll do in this video is we'll talk about list again, but instead of going for primitive or the inbuilt type of objects, let's have our own objects. So something more complex objects in list. So how to achieve that? So what we'll do is we'll say val, we'll say students. So I need a list of student now, and for that I need to create a class, right? Because you can create an object of a student only when you have a class of it. So normally, how do we create a class? We say case class, and then we mention the class name, which is, let's say, stud. And in this stud, I will pass three parameters. As so, we can also create a constructor here, right? So we can say my first value is roll number, and the type of roll number is, let's say, int. Then the next one is name, which should be string, and let's say marks, which is again int. So we have this class which has the name is stud, and then we have these three types there. And now let me just remove that, so just to see the output is we are getting the class there. Once we get that, we can go ahead, and yes, we got our class. Now let's create the object of it. So we'll say val, and we'll simply say students, and then equal to. So let's create a list of. So let's create a list, and in this list I will create the first object of student. I will say stud. I will pass multiple values, since this is a list, right, where you have to specify multiple values. So I will say roll number 1, name is, let's say, Navin, and the marks I will assign is 40. That's my first object. Let's say the next object is student. We'll say this is 2. That's 2. We'll say name is Pooja, and then we got marks as, let's say, 80. That's the marks. Let's go for one more, which is stud 3 of Nadeem, and we'll say this is 60. That's it. That's our list, and you can see once I run this code, once I save this code, you can see we got a list of students here. So this list is of type stud, right? So we have the 3 objects here. Okay. Again, if you're not getting this thing, that's okay. We will be doing so. We'll do the same thing in Java once we're done with this example. So we will get the complete idea how list works in Scala. So we have the list of student here, and now we can perform certain actions, right? Now before performing some action here, let me see how to do this in Java. So let me go back to my Java code, this is Java code here, and let me create a class here, the same class which we were doing there. Let's create a student class. In fact, we have a student class here. Let's do some modification. We do have three things. So everything is done here. We already have a class. Let me remove this thing. In fact, we have that part, right? So now what we'll do is we'll simply say this is list of we'll say list of student. That's how you do it in Java, right? We have to create a collection. We'll say s, or let's say students, or students equal to, we'll say new, or we can directly use add a list. Or let's do that. Let's say new add a list. And so we got this list object here. Now once we got that, let's add some objects here. So we'll say students.add new student by passing 3 values. We'll say 1, the same value, which is Navin, and then we'll say this is 40. That's my first object. Then we can add 2 more objects here. We can say this is 2, this is 3, this is Pooja, and this is Nadeem. Now this is 80 and this is 60. So once we got these 3 objects, let's print all the values here. So it's a student s colon students. That's how you print the values, right? Using enhanced for loop. And we can say s, we can simply print the object itself, right? If I run this code, and you can see we got the output. Oh, unfortunately I don't have toString method here. Let me do that. Let me say right click, source toString. I want to print all the values. Okay, I hope you're familiar with toString method. And if I run this code now, you can see we got all the values here. Now if you compare, we have the same values here, right? We have the same output there. But the only difference is we have to write multiple lines of code here, and we just have one line of code in Scala. Okay, now once we got the list of objects, what are the features we can achieve here? So let's say in this list, if I want to print only one, there are lots of code you have to write, right? You have to use students dot get, and you have to specify the first index number. In Scala, what we can do is we can say val first equal to students dot. So there is a method called as head, but as soon as you say not method, there's a method called as head. As soon as you say head, it will give you the first element, because this is the first element, right? So when you say head, it will give the first element. Any guess if I say students dot tail? So we have one more method which is tail. So your guess is right. Instead of getting the first one, we're getting everything. So when you say head, you will get the first one. When you say tail, it will give you all the remaining elements. Now again, if you say, we can also do that. We can say tail dot tail. So tail dot tail will give you the tail of the tail. So it will give the last value itself. Is it working here? So we got the last value. We can also achieve tail dot head, which will give you the tail's first object, or the first element, which is the second one, right? So this is tail, right? This is tail, and head out of it is this one. So we can use this one also, right? So we can use this head. We can use head and tail as a function, as a method. I mean, there are lots of methods we can work with. Now what else we have? We also have some method like, let's say, let me get a val, and we'll say I want only toppers. So I want, when you say toppers, I mean those people who are getting marks above 60 or more. Okay, and so I mean above 60 and 60 and more. 60 and more. Okay, so what we'll do now is I want only those people who are above 60 or 60 above 60. What we'll do is this students list, it has a method called as filter. Okay, so when you say filter, what you can do is in this filter you just have to pass the condition. Now basically, how do you pass a condition? I can simply say s arrow, and we'll say s dot marks should be greater than equal to 60. So I'm specifying a condition here. Again we'll see this in Java, how this works in Java. So you can see we got list, we got 20, I mean we got 80, and we got 60, right? So when you say filter based on the marks, you are getting just two things. We are not getting the first one, which is 40, because it is not satisfying the condition, right? If you want to do the same thing in Java, in this for loop, we have to say if s dot marks is greater than equal to 60, then only print, right? So it will print only those objects which are satisfying the condition. The same thing you can achieve with the help of filter method. So in this filter, you have to pass the object. So it will take one object, and it will satisfy the condition. Still, if you're not happy with this, let me explain this with the help of Java 8 concept. Okay, let me just do that here. So how this works in Java 8 is we have to say students dot filter. So there's a first of all we have to say students dot stream. Okay, stream dot filter. In fact, we have filter in Java also. So it was introduced in Java 1.8. It was not there earlier. Okay. So in Scala we can use filter. Even in Java we can use filter, but only in Java 8. It was not possible before that. And okay, so this is one way. This is one way which we have done. This is the imperative type of coding which we can done in Java 7 also. In Java 8, what we can do is, so when you say filter, so filter will ask you. So if I go to filter method, which belongs to stream, it is asking you for the object of predicate. So I need to pass object of predicate, right? So predicate is basically an interface. So if I go to predicate there, okay, if you want the complete description how that works in simple step, you can go to my I will go to description area. There's a link for the for how this predictive interface works. So just you will get that idea from there. So it has a method called test, and it's an interface. So we have to say new predicate for students, and let's define the class itself here. This is an anonymous class which I'm creating here. Let me import the package predicate, and the method name is public boolean test, which accepts, is it boolean? Yes, it is boolean, and we'll say this is test which accepts the integer value, or this will accept a string, a student value, and we'll check if s dot marks is greater than equal to or greater than equal to 60, return true, else return false. Okay, so we got this stream, and I can print all the values of stream by saying for each, and we can pass, we have done with for each, right? So you know how it works. So I can say s colon system.out.print, that's not right. This system.out.println, this is not working here, system.out.println, and we can pass the value which is s itself. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm finding the stream out of it. I'm filtering out all the elements based, so we have to pass the object of predicate. Again, you will find the link in description area how exactly predicate works. It takes the method as a definition, and you can print all the values. So you can see even that works the same way. So you can see this output is because of the predicate. Now, since predicate is a functional interface, you can see it's a functional interface, and whenever you have a functional interface, we can use lambda. What it simply means is you don't have to mention from here to here. I'm just assuming that you know lambda expression. If you don't, just go to my channel. Again, I will paste the link there in the description how lambda expression works. And in fact, we can show writing the if condition where there we can simply say, even this will work, right? Return s dot marks greater than or equal to 60. Okay, and since you have only one statement, we don't require return. We don't require this curly brackets if you have only one statement, and you can write everything in one line, provided you have an arrow there. So in Java, we use single arrow, right? So this is the same thing we are doing, right? We are saying, let me just write it here. So that's the same thing we are doing. So if on this code, we are getting the same output. So we are filtering, and we are passing the object of, we are passing the lambda expression. So in Java, lambda expression is done with the help of single line, hyphen arrow or hyphen greater than sign. In Scala, we use equal to and greater than sign. Okay, so we can use filter. In fact, we can also do partition based on this. We can say val. We can say what? How do we do partition here? Okay, so we can say, so what I want partition is, I want people, so person who scored below 60, there should be one partition. One, if you are scoring above 60, that should be one partition. Let me add one more object just to give you more glimpse out of it. We'll say this is student 4, and this will be, let's say, Mohini, and let's say this is 70. Okay, so we got two people, let's say 50. So we got two people below 60, and we got two people above 60, right? So we can create a partition here. We'll say this is parts equal to student dot partition. So we have one more method which is partition. So you have to specify the condition here on which basis you want to find the partition. So I can specify the condition there. I can say for student, again we can use lambda expression, and we can say student dot marks, again the same thing, dot 60. Now this parts will give you all the values, but in two particular partitions. You can see we are getting a partition of two values. We are getting one list, comma, second list. So the value of the first list is from here to here. That's your first list, and this is your second list. So that's how you create. That's how we create a partition in Scala. Okay, so we can use partition method, which is inbuilt method. So there are lots of inbuilt features available in Scala, as you can see. So we are working more on list of collections in Scala just to get the power of it. So that's it from this video. We have talked about lots of stuff. We have talked about how to create a list of complex objects. How do we use head? How do we use tail? How do we use filter? How do we use partition? So that's it from this video. In the next video, we'll talk about some advanced stuff. So thank you so much for watching, and make sure you subscribe to the channel.